Hello, and welcome back to What Are We Truly Passionate About, the podcast where we figure out what we're truly passionate about.
That seems really repetitive, but I literally feel like it's pretty self explanatory. I'm in my 20s. I have not a clue what I want to do, and that's currently my issue. So hopefully by the end of this journey, we figure out what I really care about. Um, Kind of doing a quick little weekly recap. Oh, these last couple weeks in general, I've just been like a busy little bee. But last week, I started working again. Again, I've kind of mentioned this. Like, right now, I'm just kind of focusing on, like, side hustles. Obviously, I still need to keep myself afloat while figuring out what I want to do. I can't just, like, ponder life and not make money. So, I kind of started working again. It's been busy, to say the least. It has not really been bad. At points, it feels like a little mindless, you know? Like, I think it definitely is easier than, obviously, teaching. But, like, it doesn't make it any more enjoyable. You know, I am still trying to figure out, like, what I really care about and kind of what I want my jobs to look like in the future. So that's what I'm still currently deciding, I guess. I don't know. That is always top of mind. I wish it wasn't, but I swear it's all I think about all day, every day. I'm thinking of, like, even though I don't love this position, how can I put myself in a better place? And so, like, I kind of look at everything as a new opportunity, and I'm saving. That's just how I look at it. I am extremely grateful to be in the position that I am in because, like, right now, again, example, I definitely don't feel as much pressure as someone else might because I know that I get to go home and there's going to be a home cooked meal. Someone is always going to make sure that I'm okay, which is, like, you know, something that I feel like I take for granted at points where I don't always pay attention to that, where I'm like, oh, like, today has been super, super stressful, but, like, how much more stressful would that have been? And then I have to go home and think about, like, what I'm going to feed myself or, like, keeping my electricity on. I don't know. So I'm super grateful for that. And so even though I feel like the last couple weeks I've just kind of been this, like, I'm sad because I feel like I have zero direction, it's not the worst possible case that you can be in. The reason I'm not as obsessed with my new job situation, though, is I feel like it gives me a lot of pre-work anxiety. Every day you're kind of, like, meeting different families, which, you know, I'm a pretty sociable person, so it's not an issue. But because of that, I also think at points sometimes things will genuinely bother me. For instance, if you're not a punctual person, being punctual is something, like, extremely important to me. I mentioned this before. I make these fake schedules in my head, and if you don't seem to follow the schedule that I've made up, now I hate you. Which, let's talk about that. I'm going to take this total side tangent. If you do not respect time, I fear you just don't respect others. And I will continuously say that because I think time is really important. It's one thing that we don't ever get back. It's always passing us by. And so if I have the expectation that we're meeting at a certain time, and 9 out of 10 times we meet, you're always late, do you actually care about our relationship? I don't know. I am someone who's chronically on time. I am 15 minutes early everywhere I go, probably a little bit earlier. And in that same breath, I think it's something that was just really instilled in me. You know, like, I feel like if I really care about someone taking the time to do something for me or just spending time with someone, I want to utilize that. I don't want to sit there for another 20 minutes because I'm waiting for you. So yes, that is one of my biggest pet peeves. But because of that, in this new little side quest that I'm doing, you do have to rely on a lot of people's time. And some people are really good about being on time. Some, on the other hand, are in that chronically late boat. And that really frustrates me. I also tell everyone and their mom, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to demand respect. When it comes to me, though, I am not as good at it. And so I've been getting a lot of pre-work anxiety because you literally never know who you are going to meet. Unless it's like a family you've worked for before. But before, I'd like walk in like, oh my God, who are they going to be? And just feeling like super anxious about it because now I'm like, oh, like I'm going to have to wait for you. Like now you're late. That is ruining my schedule. And then like when you get here, do I have to like ask you to pay me more because you're late? And my sister, we had this conversation. She was telling me, you let someone skate and they are going to continuously do it. Like you need to say something early on. And of course, it's like the one time you decide to say something, they're like, oh. And like it kind of deters you from doing it again. I don't know. That is always a constant battle, but I am even going to advocate it for you. You need to demand your respect. That is something I'm still trying to learn. And you know what? For me, a lot of it is the fear of confrontation. I'm more worried about the way that someone might react to something. But 9 out of 10 times, most people really don't care about like what you're about to ask them and the change. Like it's super minute to them and they're willing to adhere to it. That's something I've learned. So that is what I tell myself, you know, like if you're pretty clear in boundaries, that's all you can kind of hope. And you know what? I will say that that's something I'm at least getting better about. Like I will say something, that's my expectation, whether you follow it or not is your choice, but I will know how I'm going to just react. So prime example, I said my boundaries, you chose to not listen to them, you are still late. Now I'm never going to come watch your kids again because I don't respect that every single day you were late. So that's my little tidbit. I don't know, but stuff like that stresses me out. And I know at the end of the day, there's like, quite frankly, bigger fish to fry. I mean, literally on the whole other side of the world, there are kids who are actively being starved. A whole nation, actually, that is actively being starved. And I'm complaining that you are 5 minutes late. So, you know what? At the end of the day, I would much rather deal with my issues. And that is what I keep circling back to. Like, you know what? It's all about the way that you reframe your mind. And this is a perfect segue into today's episode because the reason I've kind of been thinking about this a lot lately is as an avid lover of the Hunger Games franchise, I obviously know the background lore on how these stories even came to. Okay, so it essentially just started by the author watching the news and seeing like super traumatic things happening, like crazy wars, whatever. Flip, 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 ads. Flip, 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 war. Flip, 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 ads. So, like, you're being so censored by, like, all these other things, essentially, like, to kind of hide what's going on in the world. That's what essentially made the Hunger Games. And if you pay attention to it, honestly, it makes sense. Like, by the end of the original trilogy, you have horrible things going on in the districts, and then let's throw in their face everything that's happening with the tributes. Here's a wedding. So you're kind of, like, being so overloaded and almost like forced to overlook serious issues. And so for me recently, especially with everything, I don't know, I feel like I am a pretty empathetic person and it doesn't really matter where in the world something is happening, but if something's happening and it's brought to my attention, if there's ways that I can help, I will always try to. And recently, I feel like I've just been super stressed because same issue where I'm scrolling on my feed and I see nothing but malnourished people who are, again, actively being hurt by, like, our own tax dollars. And then, like, 2 seconds later, I'm seeing somebody dancing on TikTok. And then the next post is a mom begging for us to stop and, like, and interact with her post. So it is really hard for me to see that that is happening in Gaza. And I feel, like, useless. And then I also feel crazy because I'm literally complaining about situations that I know have solutions and will eventually be better. Versus seeing real issues in the world and not being sure of when something better is going to happen is really alarming to me. So something I've actively been trying to do is reframe my mind work and stop looking at whatever current issues I'm going through as negatives and try to look at them as the positives that they could potentially be. Because seriously, I do live a really fortunate life. And I do really care about bigger issues. So to me, still beating a dead horse of something that literally won't matter in the next 5 years versus actually putting energy into things that could change the world to me matters a little bit more. And so I was telling Abby essentially how before I have to do whatever I'm doing that day, I feel this huge sense of anxiety. And honestly, I've always kind of had this. Even in high school, it's time to go to work. I am like, all day, I am thinking about having to go to work at 5 o'clock. Like, that is what my whole day feels like. And you know what? I didn't feel this as much with teaching, and it's simply because as soon as I woke up, I was going to that job. And so now it feels very different because I'll just kind of eagerly be waiting and like anticipating what that day might look like. And so I was just getting like a little sad there. And I think to me, it feels like I'm not doing something I really care about. So it's even harder to go into these situations like already kind of feeling stressed and then not knowing what your day's going to look like. So for me, that feels really, really intense. And I was telling Abby, you know, like the more I look at it and think about it, it just makes me feel really bad. And I'm like, feel like a disappointment. And before, literally, like me having to say that, I would have been so sad, you know, like thinking of what life is looking like right now. But after this conversation, I look at it in such a different light that honestly, I'm happy to be in this position in a weird way now. But again, you gotta gaslight, manifest, believe whatever it takes just for you to get to the next level. I don't care what you say. But Abby was mentioning to me, look at all your friends. Like, looking at all your friends, she starts listing off a couple. She's like, what do they do? I'm like, they do this. Okay, what does this person do? I'm like, they do this. What does this person do? They do this. And she's like, that's weird because none of them seem to be in these lucrative positions where they are very content in life right now, like not looking for a change. And she was even saying like sometimes she has to really take a step back because she's in the field that she has always desired. She's manifested this her whole life. I kid you not, from when we shared a room as kids, every day she talked about this. And so now seeing her in that field is amazing. Love that for her. And she told me she looks around in her office and there's people who are older and they always tell her how much she has accomplished for her age and how that isn't really normal anymore. And so I started thinking about that and I was like, you know what? None of my friends are doing something that they absolutely adore and every day wake up so eager to do. So I guess we all are in the same position. Like I am at the point where my peers are. I don't know why I feel so bad. And again, maybe I feel bad in the sense that I once had a career and now I don't have that career anymore and I'm trying to figure out what I want my new career to look like. And you know, the sad reality is before I used to try to hide it, like I definitely know what I want to do. But even then, a couple days ago, I was talking to my dad and he was just like, you know what? I think the real reality of it is you don't know what you want to do. And that is okay. You just need to figure that out and actually try to stick to something you like quit trying to be everywhere at once because you feel like you're trying to do the right thing for others. And so that's really helped. And Abby mentioned it, like, you know, you have to think to yourself, like, how grateful and how lucky you are to be in a position where you do get to try out all your passions before you settle down to something. And I was like, yeah. She even brought up teaching, like, my fitness classes. And she was saying how, like, think about it. A year ago, you just went to these classes and you really enjoyed them. And now you're an instructor. And, like, you love being able to do that. That's something that's really fun. And you would not have had the time or the ability to do that if you didn't put yourself in this place. And I'm like, okay. So reframing the way that I'm viewing my current situation has been really helpful. I feel like there's been like a huge weight lifted off my shoulder because now I'm just driven, you know, like I'm all about, all right, I just want to build up my savings account. If I am not going to be the most happy doing this specific route, at least how can it benefit me? And so that's what I've been viewing every little side quest as. Some of them I definitely love and I definitely will continue doing. Some of them, on the other hand, I'm like, oh, just you wait until I'm locked in. You will be gone. But currently, thank you for allowing me to grow and explore. That's kind of all that it's really about, you know? And so kind of thinking about this week's challenge and what I want us to do. Because last week it was screen time. If I'm being honest, technically my screen time went down because I worked a lot. But when I was home, I did a really bad job of being on my screens. Obviously, it's hard in a couple ways. Like, I find myself being on TikTok a lot because I'm editing. I forgot this was a touch grass moment. And perfect for the week. My TikTok actually got hacked. I have 2 accounts. I have the one that you probably see most of this promo for and all my fitness videos. But then I have my main one where I follow all of my friends and I send them TikToks. I literally have all my streaks there. And so I'm like, no way. Wake up in the middle of the night. There's verification codes sent and it says like my account's been changed. I literally get kicked out of my phone. And the way I felt in that moment, like just so upset. I was like, no way are you trying to ruin my morning before I even wake up. What? Seriously. Like, I actually was like, I can't stand myself. Like, touching grass. And I feel like because I've been thinking about that situation and reflecting on, like, kind of the way that I reacted. Don't get me wrong. Now it's funny. Now it's a little laughable. But I am disappointed in myself for being so upset. Even my dad, he ate with this line. He goes, yeah, like, I don't really get why you're that sad because it's not like you had a lot of followers. Like, it's not about the followers. It's who the followers are. I guess that was really upsetting. But again, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It won't matter to me. Even just thinking about the way that apps die out. I used Snapchat religiously when I was in middle school, high school. It came out when I was in 7th grade, I think. Or maybe 6th grade, but nobody really started using it until we were in 7th grade. I can't really remember. But I remember how actively I used Snapchat. Even in college, it was just a really popular thing. And within the last year and a half, I've been like actively trying to get off of it. And now I just never use the app. Like, it's still there. Sitting with endless notifications. I don't watch people's stories. I just started feeling as if Snapchat brought me a lot of anxiety. I don't know why. I think it was just an app that maybe was too casual for me. And I don't want it to be my main form of communication in this day and age. And I felt like me being on the app, like posting, opened that up for people. So now I just never use it. But let's connect, I guess. That's a good way to put it. I do love Instagram. And I also love TikTok, clearly, because I was just talking about how sad I was when my account got hacked. But both of them are in my full possession again, so they're always linked in the bio. And we'll need to be friends on there, so you guys get to see a little bit more of my day-to-day life. I don't know. I feel really good about this chat today. So I'm not really sure how well I explained everything that I truly wanted to talk about today, but I love this conversation. I think it gave you guys a little more insight about the way that I think about current situations right now. I think it also gives you a little bit more of an understanding of the type of person I am and kind of where I find myself aligned morally. At the end of the day, I think it's just really interesting because I had this conversation this morning on how I do find myself to be an egotistical person at points, you know, like I genuinely just have this unwavering belief in myself and I genuinely want to be the best at everything and think I have the capacity to be that. But I also have a very conflicting side of being empathetic, and I think I care about others way more about myself in most situations, and because of that I am always feeling conflicted because I want to care about what I'm currently going through, but I also want to be a realist and realize that there's so many bigger things than just me, and maybe that's just what it is being human, you know. I think it's important to realize that we're not alone here, and if everything you choose to do is because you're only considerate of your individuality and what's going to benefit you, that's what hinders us. So, before I get too deep and this conversation continues on, we're going to take a break here. But thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. Honestly, I don't think you guys understand how much it has meant to me having new supporters or even friends, past friends, and family just coming out listening. So love you guys all, and I hope you have a great remaining part of your week, and just do something that scares you. Quit stalling and take time to really focus on yourself. That's kind of our viewer engagement task of the week. Life's too short. Time does not come back. So do something that scares you. We'll check in next week. Bye, guys.